Well, welcome to another edition of Spotlight on the Collection. My name is Lori Piquel-Stengel, and I'm the Executive Director for the McLeod County Historical Museum. And we are here in the Historical Gallery at the museum in Hutchinson, and I'm standing in front of Lady Justice. Now, Lady Justice takes up a lot of space. She's over 12 feet tall and weighs about 400 pounds. So she's by far, if not the largest, close to the largest artifact that we have in the entire collection. And luckily we have 25-foot ceilings here at the Historical Society so that we can accommodate her. And she has the most wonderful and unique story that I don't think a lot of people realize. So a little bit more about Lady Justice. We're going to delve into her history and how she came to the Historical Society to have her final home. But first, I want to talk about what she's made out of. Like I said, she's over 12 feet tall, and she's actually made of aluminum. And although aluminum is typically a fairly lightweight metal, it took over 5 men to bring her to the Historical Society when she was moved. And we have some pictures showing them actually moving her. And one of the reasons why she does weigh 400 pounds and is so heavy is because in her center is a steel rod. And this was used to secure her to the top of her previous home, which was the second state capitol in Minnesota. So a little bit more about Lady Justice's history. The statue itself, like I said, she was on top of the state capitol, and it was the second Minnesota State Capitol building, which was used from 1883 to 1905. And she was at the very tippy top of this wonderful dome that was created on the Capitol building. And we have a picture here that we can show you of her majestic height up there on top of the big dome. And she was the centerpiece of the state capitol up until 1937. Although they weren't using it as the state capitol, she remained there until the building was demolished. And it was actually WPA workers that took her down in the 30s. And these WPA workers decided that maybe she needed a new home. So I'm going to read you a little article that talks about this from the Glencoe Enterprise, and it's dated December 7th, 1939. The Minnesota Works Project Administration has issued the following announcement to newspapers in the state for publication. Glencoe is to receive justice at long last. And of course they mean Lady Justice. Justice in this case is the 12-foot metallic goddess who, blindfolded with a pair of scales in one hand and a sword in the other, dominated for more than half a century the tower of the old state capitol in St. Paul. When WPA crews demolished the old brick structure more than a year ago, they decided Lady Justice needed a new home. Along with other materials, they became the owners of Lady Justice. So what do you do with this historic but weather-beaten lady presented a very neat problem. Finally, she was given a prominent place at the WPA exhibit building at the Minneapolis State Fair. And she remained there on display for quite a few years. Individual communities, though, came forward and requested to have her. And Glencoe was one of those communities. A man by the name of Mr. Paul Gaines, who had served on the Glencoe Park Board and as a county commissioner for many years, was very persistent, and he had envisioned this wonderful home for Lady Justice. And he felt that she could be placed between the McLeod County Courthouse and the former Glencoe Community Center building, and then have some kind of like a park area and greenery around it. So this was his hope, and he petitioned over and over and over for this particular statue. Now, it went back and forth. The State Historical Society looked at possibly taking it. Other communities offered to take her as well. But after some other issues that became more pressing came up on the state level, the Lady Justice issue kind of died down. And good old persistent Paul Gaines and Glencoe ended up receiving the honor to take Lady Justice home. Mr. Gaines, it says in the newspaper article that Mr. Gaines says that although no definite place has been decided upon for the erection of Justice, nevertheless, the center of the grounds between the courthouse and the community building is regarded favorably as a proper site. The historic value of Justice and its association with Minnesota's first state capital will increase with the passing of years. So we took her, but it wasn't a done deal that she would have a home. And unfortunately, the city ended up deciding, for whatever reason, not to place her. But Lady Justice ended up finding a very good home, and it was placed actually at the Gaines's residence in Glencoe. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but it was there for the next 45 years, a part of his garden. And as you can kind of see in the background here, we have tried to mimic what it may have looked like in Mr. and Mrs. Gaines' backyard. And so we have the shrubbery and the bushes around. Now, many people have come in taking a tour and grew up in Glencoe and remember Lady Justice. And they have stories, I'm sure, that go along with their memories of Lady Justice. And we honestly would love to hear your stories about your memories of Lady Justice in Glencoe. So you can do that in one of two ways. You can stop by the museum and work with our collections manager, Bev Swenson, who can help guide you in taking down your story. Or if you have the internet, you can go to our website, www.mcleodhistory.org. And on the home page, right below the historic slideshow of photographs, is a little button called Share Your Memories. And you just click that and just type away everything you can remember or the story that you want to share, and then hit the submit button, and that will go immediately to the McLeod County Historical Society staff for review and then eventually put in our collection. Be sure, though, to fill out your address, your phone number, and your email, because we may need to contact you if we want more information on your story. So that's a great way for you to become a part of history and help us to tell the stories of McLeod County. But back to Lady Justice. So there she sits for 45 years, very well taken care of. Although you can see she has suffered some damage. She is aluminum, so there's some corrosion that has occurred being outside and being on top of the Capitol. Her sword is a little damaged as well and probably needs some restoration work at some point. But for the most part, she's in really good condition, and we're really proud to have her at the Historical Society. But how do we get to this statue? And really, it's an iconography that you can find from Hong Kong to Brazil and across the world. And it's something that has historically been around for almost the beginning of time. So we take a look at some of the earliest times that we have seen this image of Lady Justice being used. And we go back to ancient Egypt. And the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead depicts a scene in which a scribe's heart is weighed against the feather of truth. So the scales is a really iconic way of, judging someone. Is their heart pure? This is the judicial system that we, weigh this, that the scale comes in to symbolize. But you can also see it in Greek and Roman mythology as well. So the Greek goddess Themis is an allegorical personification of the moral force in the judicial system. And the Romans used it as well. Now this is where it becomes, from Egypt, it was Isis, but for the Greeks and the Romans, she became a goddess. And we still kind of see that goddess shape and look with the draping of her kind of Greek-inspired toga that she has on. But she has a few other symbols with her as well. She's blindfolded. Being blindfolded is basically, as you might imagine, a symbol of justice that is unbiased. So my eyes are closed, I'm blindfolded, I'm going to lay out this justice, this weighing of your heart without any bias at all. And then there is the sword. And the sword is in her right hand, and Lady Justice is seen to have this sword in a downward motion, but ready to use it either in defense of good or as a use for punishment for those who have done wrong. Yeah, those scales may be tipped the wrong way for someone. So there's a lot of information that's caught up in the symbolism and the iconography of this statue. And that is why from the very beginning of time, this has lasted because we still value, of course, the justice system today. And every single country that you look at, you can find some kind of justice, and she's usually drawn or shown as a lady in their iconography as well. And for us, in our smaller courthouses, you see around, especially in Minnesota, because I've been to quite a few of those, and those historic structures also will have Lady Justice shown. So you can see her all over the place. And so that's one reason why we're very proud that she is here at the Historical Society. Now, as we've covered some of the history, how did she get to the McLeod County Historical Society? Well, Mr. Paul Gaines took care of it for many, many years, and he decided that he would turn it over to his wife, and when he passed away, she decided that it would be best to place it at the McLeod County Historical Society. And when she donated it, we took down some information that was basically her personal story about the piece. And I'll just read that to you now. When I attended the chili supper, November 12th, at the Heritage Center, now, just to let you know, the statue actually had been priorly donated on July 28th of 1989. And she says, I was told that the State Historical Society was interested in obtaining justice. And apparently at that time, these old issues from the 1930s and 40s when Mr. Gaines actually got permission to bring it back to Glencoe, came back up again. So the State Historical Society approached the McLeod County Historical Society with interest in obtaining Lady Justice. Well, she goes on to say, my husband Paul was the one who located the Statue of Justice in an old warehouse in St. Paul. And actually, I believe it was in the old fairgrounds that they had it stored away. And he had it brought to Glencoe 40 or 45 years ago and put it in our yard, and he cared for it for all of those years. She has a little side note, too, that she has added in her own handwriting. I hope that the statue can be kept in the McLeod County Historical Society. And Eunice Gaines would be happy to know that it still resides there, and you guys can come and see it today. Now, there's a lot more information that we have at the Historical Society on Lady Justice, the specific ones, and kind of all the different things that happened from the Capitol building being renovated and then being eventually demolished by the WPA crew, and also a fire that occurred in the dome which she stood on top of. Which is also another interesting story, which I can't get into all of that obviously today, but we encourage you to come down to the museum, see Our Lady Justice, and she is kind of big and intimidating, but I promise you she doesn't bite, and she's never used her sword. So come check her out at the museum, take a look around at all of our other great displays, and we'll be hopefully showing you another wonderful piece from the collection next month. If you're interested, we have a really fun new program that we're trying out at the McLeod County Historical Museum. As many of you know, if you've visited the museum, pictures are not allowed. But we're going to make an exception one day, and we're calling it Selfie Saturday at the McLeod County Historical Museum. So this coming July 30th, that Saturday from 1 to 4 during our regularly scheduled hours, you can pull out your cell phone and take a selfie. I know Lady Justice would probably make a wonderful selfie, although maybe that's considered an ussy because she's a kind of a person, but anyway. Give us your best selfies using the backdrop of our gallery space. Post it on our Facebook page at McLeod County Historical Society and Museum. And we will be picking sometime in August the best selfie. And whoever wins will get a lifetime membership, which is valued at $500, plus a Les Cuba print of Martin McLeod, Discovering McLeod County, which is a limited edition that we give out to all of our lifetime membership receivers. So $500 value, a fun afternoon at the museum, doing something you normally can never do, which is take pictures in our gallery space. So we hope to see you there on July 30th. Get a good selfie.